Hey guys, so in today's video, I wanted to talk about something that I took for granted a whole lot before I ended up in a wheelchair. So, for those of you who don't know, recently, last month, I had a situation where I had multiple seizures that lasted longer than 8 minutes each, and I ended up in the hospital for almost a month after this. And I still am unable to use most of my right side of my body. I'm currently in a wheelchair. And the thing that I took granted the most, or took for granted the most, was being able to travel. Traveling as a wheelchair user is so much more difficult for a number of reasons. And so I kind of wanted to talk about those reasons in this video. So, this is my perspective as someone who deals with multiple chronic illnesses and someone who is a wheelchair user of why it is so difficult to travel as someone with a wheelchair, and some things that you should consider if you are someone who is in a wheelchair who wants to travel. So, last week I actually had multiple medical appointments that I needed to travel for. Um, they were both in the same area, kind of, not the same town, but they were both in the same area, and they were about 2 hours away from where home is for me. So the decision was made, instead of driving 2 hours and then driving 2 hours back and then driving 2 hours down again, the next day and then 2 hours back again, the decision was made to just drive 2 hours down, stay the night at a hotel down there, and then drive 2 hours back the next day. So, um, to travel as a wheelchair user, first of all, you have to find some place that is accessible, which is handicap accessible. So I had to look for a specifically handicap accessible hotel with a specifically handicap accessible room. And I do plan to make another video kind of talking about my experiences, because even though this was labeled as handicap accessible, it was not the most handicap accessible room, and it was not a very handicap accessible town. There was so many places that I had very much difficulty getting into. Um, Once I was in the hotel room itself, it wasn't so bad, but it was still difficult for me to move around within the hotel room. But like getting into the hotel room, if I would not have had another person with me, I would not have been able to get into that hotel room. And I think that's really sad, because it was specifically labeled and advertised as a handicap accessible hotel room. So that is something disappointing to me. Um, and then again, like, I had multiple experiences while I was down there of other places that I went to that either didn't have the handicap accessible button that you could push to open the doors for you, or like there was no way that I could get into certain places because there was a step up. So it was just a very frustrating experience overall. So there's also a bunch of things that you have to pack as someone with a wheelchair. Um, if you need transfer devices, like if you use a sliding board or anything like that, you have to pack all of those. You have to put a lot of planning into where you're going to go to eat, because you need handicap accessible places if you're going to go out to eat. Otherwise, it needs to be delivered. If you need special adaptive devices to be able to eat or to complete certain tasks, you need to make sure that those are available where you're going to as well. So if you need like spoons or forks with weighted handles, things like that, you have to take that into consideration as well. If you are someone who needs a shower chair or a shower bench, you need to make sure that those are either built into the bathroom at the hotel or wherever you're staying, or you're going to have to pack your own. And thankfully, the hotel that we stayed at was one that the shower bench was built right into the shower. So I didn't have to worry about that. But normally, because I can move the left side of my body, normally I only use the right wheelchair foot or leg. But because I was going to be going to multiple medical appointments and someone was going to be pushing me and I was not going to be propelling myself the entire time, I had to bring both legs. I brought my gait belt just in case I needed assistance with transferring. I don't always use a gait belt. I do in certain circumstances, or if I'm feeling weak, things like that, I do use my gait belt, but it's not like an every time thing that I use that gait belt for transferring. I probably should, but I don't. Um, there's cushions and things like that, like making sure that you have support, making sure that you have all of your medications, making sure that you have, like, that's not even just for someone who is a wheelchair user, but like chronic illness comes with a lot. And I just find it very frustrating that you have to like plan out so much. Like it's so hard to be spontaneous as someone who has any sort of disability or chronic illness to be able to spontaneously just decide, oh, I want to go for an overnight trip. You can't just decide that on the spur of the moment because, like I said, there's so much planning that has to be in place. You have to know how you're going to get there. You have to know what you need to bring with you. You have to make sure that you have enough medications. You have to make sure that you have all of the adaptive devices and tools and transfer things and everything that you need, you have to bring with you, or you have to make sure that it's available where you are going. So it can be a very frustrating process, which is very sad because I feel like, people who have disabilities, chronic illnesses, handicaps, things like that, like I feel like we want to be as normal as anybody else. We want to be able to experience life the same ways that anybody else can. And it's very frustrating that you have to go through the process of trying to figure out exactly what you need for every single place that you're going to go to, exactly what type of assistance, having to rely on other people to help you open the door. Like, if you don't have somebody who's traveling with you, I would have been very, very like frustrated and nervous to travel alone. Like, I have no intention of traveling alone as a wheelchair user just because it's so difficult. And like I said, there were multiple places I went to where I would not have been able to get inside if I had not been traveling with someone else to open the door or hold the door open while I tried to push myself in, or someone who can pull my wheelchair up while I'm pushing on the one side that I have access to because I can only use my left hand. It's a very frustrating process. So if you are someone who has a chronic illness and um and or is a wheelchair user, let me know if you have experienced any of this, if there are any tips or tricks, things like that that you have to offer. Please let me know because I could definitely use all of the tips and tricks that anybody has available because like I said, I'm new to this. I've only been in a wheelchair since October 2024, and so it is a very new thing in my life. Like this right here, this mirror is an adaptive tool that was recommended by the occupational therapist so that if I choose to use these burners, I'm able to see what's going on with the water or whatever is in the pots. Like if I'm boiling water, I can see it. So this is an adaptive tool, just in case you guys were wondering. But anyways, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments down below. If there are any other topics you would like to hear me talk about on my channel in the future, let me know that as well, and I will get something filmed for you. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys in my next video.